It's time for another retreat review, and today we're going to take a look at Arkana's centre in the Sacred Valley. Now, anyone who's been following my channel will know that I was a big fan of Arkana's Amazon centre, which I've been to twice. And so the question for me, which was always in the back of my mind, was how would this centre in the Sacred Valley measure up against that one? Would the ayahuasca experience be as authentic outside of the jungle setting? What kind of activities would be on the menu to keep us entertained? Well, let's find out. Arkana Sacred Valley is on the Urubamba River, about an hour's drive from Cusco city centre. The retreat's been up and running since 2017, and as I mentioned, it has a sister centre in the Peruvian Amazon, which has been open since way back when. Now, I visited this centre in May 2019 for a 1-week retreat. The normal cost for this retreat is $1,380, but if you're a returning customer to Arkana, then you get a 10% discount, and this applies across both centres. So because I'd previously been to the jungle centre, I got 10% off the cost of this retreat, which is a nice little bonus. Now with this review, I'm going to try and not get into direct comparisons with the jungle centre, or talk about which centre I thought was better. I'm going to judge the Sacred Valley purely on its own merits, so let's get into it, starting with the facilities. So it's my understanding that Arkana Sacred Valley was originally a hotel, which was purchased by Arkana and then converted into a retreat centre. And it shows, because it's a lot more comfortable than your typical Peruvian ayahuasca retreat. Don't get me wrong, it's still pretty basic compared to your average Western hotel, but having been on a few of these retreats, you get a feel for what the typical standard of comfort is, and I would say that this place is above that standard. So each guest room sleeps 2 people and has its own private bathroom and shower. And although this sounds like I'm making a big thing out of something as simple as a bathroom, then trust me, on most ayahuasca retreats, this is not the norm. And so a simple creature comfort, like not having to walk 50 meters to take a piss in the middle of the night, yeah, it goes a long way. So I was sharing a room with my wife, and the room we had put us in separate beds, which I thought was a little bit unnecessary. So it's something to keep in mind that if you're traveling with your partner, you might not actually end up be sleeping in the same bed together. Also, I think the bedrooms should have had some kind of storage, like a set of drawers or a cupboard or something. We basically had to live out of our packs and just put clothes on the floor, and it made the room really chaotic, which I didn't like. Once you get outside of the bedrooms though, you are in for a real treat. Each room leads onto this elevated walkway, which gives you stunning views of the mountain and the river landscape. It's an absolutely incredible view, and this would be one of my favourite places just to come and chill out and just smoke in a patio and just take in the surroundings. It's absolutely stunning. There is a fairly decent Wi-Fi in the centre, but it doesn't actually reach up to the bedrooms. So if you want to use it, you have to head down to one of the communal areas if you want to get online. Now the main communal gathering spots are outdoor grassy areas. There's a big lawn with deck chairs where everyone hangs out, a few covered picnic tables, there's some hammocks for chilling, and this huge onion-shaped tent that was used for meditations. Now one thing I will say here is that because of the overall shape of the compound, there isn't that many places where you can go to be truly alone. See, I always like to find myself like a quiet spot, somewhere I can chill and just do some rapé away from the main group, and that was harder to do at this centre. Now that one small point aside, I was really happy with the facilities and the surroundings. For the ceremonial space, there is a rectangular hall, so it's slightly different than the traditional circular malokas. And at first I thought this was going to bother me because I love those big, wide, traditional malokas. They just have this epic feel to them. And so I thought this was something that I would really miss. I found that it wasn't actually that big a deal, and there are actually a few pros to this kind of hall format. So one is that the bathrooms are a lot closer as they're just off the main hall, and believe me, that can be a godsend when some backdoor purging is coming on strong. The other positive was that it felt a lot more intimate than the traditional maloka, because there isn't this vast expanse of space between you and the people across from you. Given the choice, I absolutely would still prefer the traditional maloka, but it wasn't a deal breaker. Now it should come as no surprise to hear that the people who work here are awesome. The staff who run the centre, doing the cooking, cleaning, etc., they were super friendly and they would go out of their way to make you comfortable and get you what you needed. And as for the facilitators in the ceremonies, I mean, holy shit, these guys were next level. Some of them would play instruments during the ceremony, and I don't just mean strumming a few songs on guitar. No, one of them was playing a harp as good as any classical musician in the dark during a ceremony. I mean, seriously, try and imagine what that must have been like, to be in the middle of a profound psychedelic experience and then out of the darkness you hear a harp playing. It literally sounded like heaven. And finally we have the shaman. Now you can check out some of my other videos where I interview the shaman, and you can see for yourself just how approachable and open to conversation these guys are in person. And in ceremony, they were just amazing. It's a father and son team from the Shipibo tradition. They sing in harmony together and create this beautiful tapestry of sound. And you know, having been to a few of these retreats, you always think that each shaman you meet is like the best one ever and no one else will ever be better than them, and that they'll just have a place in your heart forever. And yet every time I meet a new shaman, they bring something new to the table, and I'm glad for having had the chance to work with them. And that's how it was with the shaman at the Sacred Valley. They were just a pair of really pure souls, and they really went above and beyond in the time and energy they put into my process. So the thing that attracted me to Arkana in the jungle was that they had this solid schedule of daily activities, and that's mirrored in the Sacred Valley. Each day there's activity like yoga, meditations, or excursions like visiting Pisac or hiking to the salt mines. So that mixed in with the medicine activities, it means there's nearly always something going on. They do keep the Wednesday free for those who are doing the optional trip to Machu Picchu. I didn't go on that. Instead, I headed just 20 minutes up the road to visit Ollantay Tambo, which is a must-see in my opinion. You know, a lot of people think that Machu Picchu is like the gold standard when it comes to these ancient sites, but in my opinion, Ollantay Tambo is right up there with it, and it's just up the road from Arkana, so seriously, go and check it out. And this is definitely one of the cool things about this centre. You know, in the jungle, you can't really go off on your own and venture into the jungle, whereas here, if you want to go and explore place X, then you just go for a walk or jump in a taxi. So in that sense, there's a lot more freedom than your typical centre in the Amazon. So there are several different kinds of medicine which are included in the retreat at Arkana. There's rapé, ayahuasca, sweat lodge, San Pedro, and there's also the optional extra of doing a 5-MeO DMT ceremony. So all this gives you a lot of different options, and it means that you get a lot of value out of your time there. The retreat kicks off with a rapé ceremony, which I really enjoyed. I mean, anyone who follows my channel will know I am a big fan of rapé. I find it extremely useful for grounding myself and cutting out the mental chatter. And so for me, this was a perfect way to start the retreat. Throughout the week, you have 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. These are predominantly led by the shamans, but as I mentioned, there are occasions where other people will sing or play instruments. Now, normally I find this kind of thing to be slightly annoying. It's like I came here for the shaman, so let me listen to the shaman. But in this case, it really complemented the ceremony perfectly, and I appreciated the sort of diversity in the sounds. Early on in the week, there's a sweat lodge. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was not a fan of the sweat lodge, and I covered this in a separate video. But I'm glad to have had the opportunity to try it. It's very intense, and if you have any medical conditions, then you should approach it with caution. And finally, you have the San Pedro ceremony. And this happens during the day, and you head out into the bright landscape of the Sacred Valley to really soak in the nature, which serves as a contrast to the kind of dark introspection of the ayahuasca. So it's a lot to pack into the week, but it didn't feel like too much, and I thought it all added up to a superb value package. Arkana Sacred Valley is a superb centre, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone, but particularly for those who want to go to a retreat in Peru but are put off by the thought of being eaten alive by bugs or intense heat. This is the place for you. The setting is completely different to the Amazon, but the healing experience that you get is the same, and the level of care is out of this world. Now, I can't explain why without going into too many details about my personal circumstances, but let me just say that they gave me what I needed, and they went above and beyond the call of duty to do so, and that was something I really appreciated. Is it the same authentic ayahuasca experience that you get in the jungle? Almost. Both places have their own unique character, but the reality is that ayahuasca is from the jungle, so there's always going to be more of a synergy there. The flip side though is that you get a much more comfortable experience without this culture shock of finding yourself in the middle of the jungle, and with the option to take in all these amazing ancient sites and Inca landscapes. So in closing, it's a great centre and I would definitely go back. So that's it for this retreat review. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. If there's any questions about this retreat or any of the retreats that I've been on, leave it in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I'll see you guys next time.